All right. So,
Did you want to
all
start?
right, welcome back to our HT podcast show.
Thank you.
It's been a couple weeks now. A couple weeks since we had a guest. Last 2
Yeah.
weeks was just me and Gin, and I'm sure you guys tired of us.
The resounding comments is
Yeah.
like we need someone else.
Yes.
It can't just be
Yes.
you two.
And so today we have a very special guest.
Mm-hmm.
You want to introduce?
Yes, this is Jung
Michael.
He's actually my ngang Jung for Hip C.
Yes. So I
he's
boss him around.
Exactly.
No, I'm kidding.
It's very true. No, he's actually very nice to me. He lets me do almost anything, but also guide me the correct way. So I'm in Hip C and he's ngang Jung. And
Yes.
it's been a pleasure this year to work with him. And the reason to say a pleasure because today was the last day of Tiu Nhi
Yeah,
before
it
a
was.
retreat, right?
Yeah.
How was it? How do you feel? It's the last day.
Wait. Before we continue, can we crack this open?
Oh, yes.
yeah.
I completely forgot.
All right, one.
Of course.
Let's just-
Cheers.
There we go. All right.
Fair.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Keeping
cheers.
us on track.
Yes.
Good man.
Can't start talking without the Coke.
No, you're right.
Right.
It didn't feel right. You're right.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't had Coke in a while. This is.
well, there you go.
It's-
You need to come back then if you ever want
I
more.
know. Part 2.
Right.
Maybe if this goes well.
No, it's going to be fantastic. But yeah, so last day, how do you feel, right?
Oh man, like literally, I was, it was crazy because time really goes by fast. And when I started out, first day, because I'm new to being Ngenchun for Hip C, especially first time working with Hip C, different age group. Last year and the year before that, I worked with Aonis most of the time.
Yeah.
So like transitioning to a new like older group, it was very challenging. And the first day I felt like it was gonna be a rough year. And there's a lot of ups and downs with it for sure. But I had a fun time. Really, I think it's like the most fun time I've ever had in Tiu Nhi. Really, as a Hunchun. No offense to my Aonis, but like there's a reason why I switched. And I had a really fun time. Today felt unreal. Like I was like, oh wow, it's the last day of with this group especially. I really have a great group of kids, and to see that today was like the last class time we ever had. It was definitely a shocker for sure.
It sounds like Tunyi's closing down or something.
No, it's not going down. But like just the group that we have, it was just really special.
But one other thing is, for everyone else who don't know, most Tunyi chapters around the country go on the school schedule. So they go September through May or June. But for our Dawn here in Tacoma, we go from basically Easter through Christmas. So about early April through mid-December is usually when we end. So today's our last day of class, and then we'll end with a retreat in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
And we still have the retreat coming up. So it's
Yeah.
not completely over.
Not completely over.
but definitely feel like something has ended for sure. And
There's a lot of relief that goes into like, oh yeah, I'm done teaching for the rest of the year. But like, just with the group,
Nice.
so we
yeah.
mentioned before, Hip C is a tough group.
Oh, yeah.
You-
Yeah.
and Michael is a young Huingjung, and to deal with kids who not completely his age, but close to his age is very difficult, right? And something that I love seeing and I really appreciated was his honesty, right? And we mentioned it before on this podcast, when you're teaching older kids, you kind of have to be honest or they'll see through your BS,
Right.
right? So it's really refreshing to see that in someone who's in a leadership position. And it was very nice. So,
Yeah.
but you mentioned when you were a Huingjung, you started out with Oni and
Yes.
everything.
So
How was that?
It was kind of rough at first. I was the only Huncheng that got promoted that year, so this was in 2022. I feel like I was already doing like Huncheng stuff, like helping out with classes and whatnot. But just being an actual Huncheng, and we don't have like the manpower in our grant, so I was taking care of my own class. I kind of like was jumped into a fire somehow. Even though I was partnered with another Huncheng to help with the class at that time, I still was doing a good amount of work, right?
A lot of work.
And it was hard because when you don't know, like this was like the year where we're transitioning to in-person teaching and all that stuff. I started to learn, how to really be a Huncheng, even though I got promoted. It was still weird at first. So learning how to plan lessons and doing things that are enjoyable for kids, especially when they're Aonis. Trying to keep them entertained. It's very difficult. But it was very, again, ups and downs, and with the amount of hunchings we have, you kind of have to put in more work than you should,
Yeah.
which is pretty hard, especially for a new hunching. But I was able to go through it. I'm still here. So.
Nice. You've been in Tunyi since you were really young, right? Because I've known you
Yeah.
since you were Lo Ao Nhi.
Right.
Even my wife knows you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
so
think
when you
I
were-
think I
yeah.
joined 2008 maybe.
Mhm.
This was like either like the last year we were at our old church.
Oh, okay.
So of course, my mom wanted me to be in Tunyi, and I also had
course.
like cousins that were in Tunyi already.
Oh,
So it made things a little bit easier for me to transition into being in Tunyi. And yeah, started out as an Anika Mop, and then been really involved with a lot of the Tunyi stuff. So yeah, and
So
now I'm with
you mentioned you come back teaching around back to in-person teaching. So did you go to Hunchun camp during COVID or just before that?
Yes. So 2020 was when I became a Hipsy Chintai, and unfortunately I wasn't able to go to camp during that time because we weren't doing any of that stuff.
Right.
So 2021 was the first year we returned with that, and for my camp it was only 3 days, so it was like the longest 3 days
Oh,
ever. Still during Labor Day weekend. I was fortunate to have a Yoon as my Samachung. So
Nice.
but yeah, it was like the longest 3 days ever. I felt like, usually it's like 4 days, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Very compact, everything in. You try to
Yeah.
squeeze everything in, right?
yeah, like we would end off like pretty late, and then wake up every morning, same thing. And then I think we ended off like pretty late too, on Sunday. But yeah, I had a pretty good time during that time too. Yeah.
So that's you got out. You did Onyi, and
Yeah.
then you did Hipsy.
Yeah,
Now, it
so I
seems
only for
that-
2 years, and then the second year, I became a Genchu, and then this year I became a.
Do you think if you had gone slow with a slower like let's say you start with teaching Ao Nhi, then let's say you start teaching Tunyi, then Yesi, then Hipsi, do you think that transition would have been a little easier to work with Hipsi at the end, or any difference? Do you think, or would you have liked to?
Maybe because the first thing I thought about when being a Hunchung is I don't want to teach Gentu for some reason. I'm like, that age group is like, I know it's like most people would like that Ngan, but for me, I just didn't see myself teaching that Ngan.
You and I are very similar in that, by the way.
Yeah.
And I've never taught that Ngan either. So.
Yeah.
Even for not for Yesi, I have no problem with them. It's just that was never
Sure.
my thought. It always been Ao Nhi. I was like, maybe I'll be a Ao Nhi Hunchung for a while. But then a lot of things I went through during last year, especially made me want to switch to an older group. Not because of the kids, just because for me personally, I want to do something different. Be around people that that can really help, especially like Ngan Hip. They're a lot closer to my age, so like maybe I can help them in some way where they're able to have a better transition into adulthood. So
Yeah. And I think you mentioned at the beginning too, because you said I just about to graduate college. So you told the whole class you guys need help with college application, that
Right.
kind of stuff. So even though you said you're young, you still has an expertise, even probably an expertise that's closer to what they need right now,
Right.
right at that age. And speaking of that, it seems like you just finished college,
Yeah.
right?
right.
Can you tell us what you went into?
So I graduated from the University of Washington, majoring in computer science. Right now I am on a job hunt.
Yeah.
It's been rough, but it's been job hunting, and I also am working a seasonal job, so I'm not just waiting around.
Yeah.
Not to jump ahead, but did you, while you're in college, were you still like doing Tunyi stuff at the same time? And did you
Yes.
find that very difficult?
It was very difficult for sure, especially planning lessons and just being a Nganchu for the first time. This was my junior year of college. Probably one of the most harder years in my college experience, just because of everything that's going on, especially with the courses I was taking, and being a Nganchu, I was trying to do something different from everyone else. I was trying to come up with different activities, something that we haven't done in our Duan. And by doing that, it took a lot. It took a lot of work, and I don't want to say I did all the work or anything, because I definitely there's a vision that I had for what I wanted that year. You know, being able to communicate with, I was fortunate to work with a great group of Hunchungs, very passionate Hunchungs in Yanao. But for me, it was just very difficult just because I just wanted to do something different.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how did you prioritize your time during that period between going to school, going to TU, being at Jung?
So the first thing I always prioritize is school. School is very important. For me, I definitely want to put in effort into Tuni, obviously. So, you know, doing most of the work during the daytime and then nighttime, look at some lessons that I need to work on, look at the schedule. I always like consistently look at like our Jing like most of the time whenever I'm not doing anything, just because I want to, you know, I'm pretty organized with that stuff.
Yeah.
So staying on track and, you know, keeping the lessons good. I always remind my Hunchungs. Last year, I didn't get to do much this year, but I was doing a lot of meetings. So like once every 2 weeks, I was doing meetings.
You mean meeting with your Hunchungs?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And maybe that was what made it a little bit hard, just because, you know, obviously I wanted to focus on school and do all that stuff, but I know that I have a role as a Ngenchung to be the best Ngenchung I can be and, you know, delegate, you know, share the role of, you know, of everything. So for me, you know, balance those two things was very difficult.
Yeah.
Very for sure.
And I think for Duan Chung, like I can't imagine, because I've never been a Duan Chung, but I can't imagine if a Duan Chung has a bunch of Huing Chung working under them who are students, right?
Yeah.
It's like you see, you want to push them, like, hey, get things done for the kids, get things done for wherever.
Yeah.
But then a part of you also remembers that these Huing Chungs are like the main priority, like Michael said,
school.
is school.
Yeah.
Right?
As it should be.
As it should be,
Right.
right? But you still want them, you still
It's a
have
hard
to
balance.
push them. It's
Yeah.
hard balance.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you push them too hard, then they'll be like, hey, school is my priority.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave Tilnyi if you keep pushing me.
I think that's a big thing was, you know, just because everything was moving so fast that, you know, I kind of lost a little bit of love for Tuni, you know, especially being a Chung. You know, but I also like discovered, you know, a different purpose of why I'm still in Tuni, and that's for the kids and giving back. I think that was probably the main reason why I became Hunchung in the first place. You know, I was fortunate to, you know, have Hunchungs that have kids that I'm teaching, you know, today. So you and you know, a couple of Hunchungs that I looked up to, you know, back in the day. You know, seeing that as like a full circle moment there.
And that's the amazing thing about Tilnyi is that I think all Huing Chung goes through that phase where they're like, I need to step away from Tilnyi.
Right.
Which is totally fine.
Which is totally fine,
I thought
right?
about that. I think about that every
Yeah, I
time.
know.
I actually encourage a lot of our upcoming Hunchungs to that too, because Tuni will always be here for you. Tuni's the family will always be here. So take your time. You take a break if you need to. You know, go recharge. Go work on your other priorities, your school, your family.
Right.
We'll always come back here as long as you're Hunchung. Be Hunchung first, then
Keep the con,
get
keep
the
the scarf.
scarf. You know,
Get the
then
scarf.
do whatever.
You're right.
Right.
Get the red scarf. It's a second family, and we're always, once you're Huing Chung, you're always welcome
And
back.
There's another great example here. Today, actually, we have a new Hunchung in our dorm today who came from another state.
Yeah.
You know, and he's also just a brand new Hunchung too. He just got promoted back in August. Coming from Tennessee, and he doesn't know anybody here. He came over here for work, and you know, and he came to our dorm. Nobody knew. Nobody knew
Exactly,
he just came, he showed up. You know, and then we were able to quickly verify that he is actually a Hunchung. Got to do it. Got to do a background check.
But
Nah,
it's
that's crazy.
rare unless you're in like a fraternity or something where someone shows up randomly. The only thing they show is like a con, and of course the background check and everything.
Yeah.
But they
you
just
trust
have
them.
this, and you trust them, and then we welcome him like
Yeah.
that. You know, he's a great guy,
Yeah.
but it's just like, imagine that. Where else could you just
there's
get that?
Almost no other organization like
And
this.
that's why Jung Vian and Jung Michael is mentioning, like, get your Jung Han.
Yeah.
If you need to take a break, take a break.
Yeah.
But you can always come back. It's
Yes.
just a second family.
Yeah.
Your network is so important.
Right.
So get that con. Ditch. No, I'm just kidding.
ditch us.
Don't ditch if you don't have to. But always feel free to come back. So you're doing this whole college thing.
Yeah.
Very difficult,
Right.
right? And then you finally graduated. Right. When did you graduate? Was it this?
June 2024. Yep.
Yeah. And again, can you tell me the degree that you got?
So computer science. I'm looking for software engineer positions because I really like that part of it. Yeah, it's just been really difficult looking. Especially the market during this time. A lot of them are looking for people, but then looking for more experienced people. And I think the experience part of it is like I don't have much of it, and other than like school projects and working within my teams. But
And
that. So the funny thing about that, it's you're right. You're absolutely right. A lot of these companies, even for entry level jobs, they're looking for
and
10 years of experience, right? And that meme, they're looking for tons of experience, but you just graduated. How are you supposed to have that?
Right.
Catch 22.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
You can't have experience until you hire me,
Exactly.
and then you won't hire me until I have experience.
So, do you think there's any way you can supplement that experience with, let's say, volunteer work, or how do you pad your, I don't want to say pad, but pad your resume, to make it look nicer?
I think pad your resume is always. I mean, Tilney is always a good resume padder, if that's the right term, right? You can always put down
knowing
leadership.
knowing how to word it correctly so that it tailored the resume to that job. Right?
Matches with that description. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Regardless if you have actual work experience or not. Right? That's one thing.
Because when you write, even if you're not in Ngang like yourself or Duan Chung, like other people, the word actually says Vietnamese youth group leader, right?
Yeah.
It's a leader.
Yeah.
Once you have that, you can stretch that as much as possible.
Yeah. I know someone another hunter who is really good at this. He actually used a Dutch June. He was in charge of the June Fall program, and so he for the entire Lindon, right? So he used that experience as one of his capstone program PM project. As he was getting his certificate in PM program manager, project manager, whatever it was. Nice. And so he used that Tunyi for that. So
nice.
Definitely can.
So finding a way to stretch things out in Tunyi will we'll see what we do with that.
But we kind of mentioned like when you first apply, it's a numbers game.
Right.
It's very hard to like companies look through tons and thousands of resumes, right? So you have to, it's how do you make yours stand out,
right?
Without having, even if you don't have experience, right? You gotta throw in some keywords in there.
In some situation, I found it when I was applying. It was like I talked to them, no response, and then they finally responded with saying, "Oh, we already hired someone." But the way the timeline is, you knew. I apply right after you hire someone already. I wish you would have told me that 2 months ago.
Right.
Yes.
So sometimes it's always luck too.
I don't like those like non-responses, especially when like you take the assessment and then you want to see how you did, and then they just don't reply. All right.
So it's like Tilney has helped you at least put something on your resume.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Has Tilney kind of helped you with any other way? Like, have you been able to reach out to other Wing Chungs?
I definitely have, a couple of friends that, are doing the same program as me, that are still in school. And even then, they're also struggling to find, jobs as well. Especially, in school, they want to get experience now. And right out of school, they can, find jobs easier. But
for sure.
That's definitely one thing that I see. It's hard as it is to get a job in the field while you're going to school, like internships or part-time jobs in the field. It is hard, especially in computer science, right? Because it's such a popular field that a lot of people are applying for.
Right.
Yeah.
But right now, I understand that the job market is hard because for me, being actually someone who does work in the field, I do see companies posting out tons of job openings, right? But they're also called like phantom jobs. Because it's there, but it's not there at the same time because they're actually not hiring for it. It just shows that the company is trying to hire. They're trying to do that, but they're really not.
I've never heard that. I know.
Tons of that.
Yeah. So now you kind of know that there's a lot of variables. And I say 50% of it is like not even you. Right. It's just timing, luck, when you apply, things like that. It has nothing to do with
I recently got a friend that just got a new position, and I was asking her for some advice and tips and all that stuff. And she was telling me how she applied to like hundreds of jobs and only got like 3 or 4 responses back. So like she got a lot of practice as well. So, being able to, take time, throughout your day and actually work on, coding, especially, and then doing projects as well, not just applying and updating your resume. So
like working on projects that you want, build something that you want to build.
Right.
It helps get you that experience.
Yeah.
So how have you been doing this searching? Did you make like a list? Because I assume you apply, and this happened to me too when I applied. At one point, I was like, I was applying randomly just on the phone really
Right.
fast. Whenever I see I apply.
I'm still kind of doing that right now.
Exactly. But I don't keep a record of it,
Yeah.
right? So I like to do things fast, and I hate to do it on the computer. So I'm like, you know, like
Right.
autofill.
Right.
Yeah. Have you had that issue
So,
doing it?
so for me, how I keep track of my jobs is through a Google Sheet. I just copy and paste what company it is, what the position is, and then status. So like most of them are just like all red or
Yeah.
pending. But
Yeah.
and then notes see like, oh, they saw my application, or like they're, you know, notes like that. But yeah, just go down LinkedIn, apply. Most of them are like easy apply, so like you just click a couple of buttons and whatnot, not actually like type in all that stuff.
But then, do you tailor your resume to that
Yeah.
specific role post?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
job listing?
Yes. And then the jobs that, you know, you do actually have to go to, you know, the website and whatnot. I actually do. But yeah, that's how I keep track of all my job applications. Lately, it's been, you know, just brushing it, like you said, just like clicking the button. But yeah, that's
Can
how.
I ask, how many of those jobs that you apply for, how many of them do you actually get an interview for, like racial wise? Take a guess, like none, like 50-50, none?
Nah.
Not, okay,
No.
that's hard
50-50,
enough.
are you kidding
All right,
me?
no,
No,
that's,
heck no.
that's a goal.
So I have like 12,
Yeah.
15 years of experience.
Yeah,
It's not 50.
it's not.
I think I
it's
probably got
not
like
50.
2 interviews that they wanted to meet, but never like reached back. So
I got
Oh,
one
yeah.
interview
Yeah.
when I applied, and
Yeah.
I have 12, 6. Like my resume looks really good, and I
Yeah.
barely got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest.
So random.
Yeah.
A lot of people apply to my company using me as a referral, and I see all the list of people in there. I can keep track of it on my side too.
Right.
We have an app for that. But essentially, I so far only 2 people out of like more than 10 have made it to an interview stage. So most of them don't get shot down at during the resume screening part.
Mm.
So it's tough.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So how do you have resiliency for this? I mean, if someone else is in your shoe, like imagine if you had to tell Wing Chun going through the same thing, how would you tell them? How do you stay resilient? Because this is not easy. It's been way past my prime in regards to having to do this.
Yeah.
And I remember when I had to do this again, like a few years ago, it was very difficult because I wasn't used to that. So I had no idea how to stay resilient and not be like, forget this.
Yeah.
You know?
I think a lot of it just goes into taking breaks, knowing that, you know, there will be a time for you. It's definitely a timing game. You know, obviously once you see like the rejection emails, it's like, oh, it's just another letter, right?
Another lesson.
Another lesson. Yeah. But you know, as you just keep going, you'll know that, you know, I'm not the only person that's struggling with this as well. But you know, once you see like other people, you know, getting the position, you know, it's like I don't want to say like I try to compare myself to everyone that does get the positions, but it is like a awakening moment. Yeah, like I gotta actually like lock in and, you know, get this job that I want. So, you know, once I see that, you know, I try to keep applying, do as best I can, practice outside of it as well, not just, you know, applying, actually like practice.
And I know you also work out a lot too. So you probably
do.
have like a daily habit.
That's
where
my
you
therapy there.
Yeah.
That's my therapy.
So do you have like a daily habit of waking up, working out, then, you know, applying to like 1 or 2 jobs,
Yes.
checking the list? I assume habits for me, when I go through tough times, the only thing that saved me was habits. The only thing that saved me was waking up at 3:30 in the morning to work out.
Yeah.
Because that was the only time I had. And if I didn't have that workout, I would have killed somebody.
What time are you going to sleep, man?
I go sleep at 8:30.
Okay,
I wish I could.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and if you don't let me sleep at 8:30, I will get angry too.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's like every time I message this guy after like that time, I never get a response until the next morning, and it's always like at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
Oh my
like
gosh.
It's like you should know my habit
Yeah,
right now.
I
You should
do.
be as close
I do.
to me
Yeah.
as my wife. Okay.
Yeah, even like I'm waking up like around that time and you're texting me like at like 5 a.m. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're awake right now.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I remember. I don't want to derail, but I remember when I was in the get rid of stress phase, get amazing at basketball. I was asking Jung Michael to go to the gym at
This was
5, at 5 with me, and we did it once. And guess what happened when we played basketball? I hurt myself for like 2 weeks.
And then never
He made
again.
fun of me in front of the Hip C kids. So I hate you, by the way. But I assume it's the habits. It's
Yeah.
those daily habits that is like helping you persevere.
Yeah.
Because this is not an easy time for anybody.
I think definitely going to gym was like my stress reliever. Like, I usually go to gym before I do those things, like apply to jobs,
Yeah.
whatnot. So like knowing that I didn't get the position or whatnot, like I use that as a stimulus to go into the gym and get when I'm like upset or angry. Doing
Yeah.
that. It's like my
Side question here. Do you regret or wish you had done a different field up to this point, at least? I know you haven't really gotten
So
into it
I've
yet.
I've always had that vision of being in that field for a while. Especially, I think what made it happen was being in my computer graphics class in high school. Kind of made me want to do it. Before then, I wanted to be a pediatrician. Get into that field just because I had a really good doctor. A child. But yeah, I've always had that vision for being a computer scientist, leading to college.
Nice.
And what's funny is because I didn't know I got into the computer science program because apparently that was like the hardest program to get into at UW.
Very competitive.
So like obviously when you're excited, this was like during peak COVID time. So like I think application, like knowing that you got into school is in March, and as you're excited about it, you want to post it and share it to other people. And then I had like a friend, a really close friend that responded to that picture that I took, and he was like, "You got into the computer science program? Like that's crazy!"
Yeah.
And I was like confused, like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" So I had to relook at my application because I forgot that when you apply for the school, you also apply for the department as well.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, that's crazy!" But I didn't know. Like I should have had like better excitement or like better reaction for it. But just like knowing that I got in was like pretty cool.
Oh, direct admit programs, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
And I think that's a good reminder for us all that life is ups and downs and ups and downs. And that's probably a good thing. Because if life is constantly up, then you will never feel happy because you're constantly at this level. The only person that can stay, in my opinion, consistently happy is if there's something mentally unstable about you that you're happy, right? It's people.
It makes life interesting too.
Yes.
Obviously, the hard times, when you're trying to get through that, it's very difficult and you feel like you're like the only person in the world.
Yeah.
And like for me, especially, my junior year of college, it was definitely rough. I was still applying for internships during that time as well. And like knowing that I wasn't getting it and didn't have time to apply. And then also like with life moving around, Tuny, with the people I'm with, it was very difficult. And, I felt like, I didn't want to do anything with anyone. But knowing that, there's hope and, it is a timing game. And, as you keep going, keep going through and just keep working, you'll find something.
So you recently, was it this year or last year? You went to this year, right? You went to Kappa camp, right?
Yeah. That was probably one of the funnest time I ever had. And
See, that's why everyone's saying that we've had Kappa's like the funnest.
Really?
I had no like vision for going to Kabbat, but like the group that I went with in my Linduan, like that were my friends.
Nice.
It was fun.
Do you think some of those leadership skills that you learned there, can any of it apply to your working career eventually, or even right now?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of it was a lot of like logistics stuff of how to work, in a higher position and how to work with, with people in your community, especially in the church, as Duan Chung or Duan Fa. Being able to work with people is a very important aspect, with any job. So I definitely will apply those things that I learned to, to the work life, hopefully.
Yeah. I just want to summarize everything because in my mind, it's very interesting because your life and your Tuny life is very similar to each other. There are tough times when you were Wing Chun, and probably when you were a kid too. We didn't get deep into that.
Yeah.
When you were actually in Tuny as a student. But when you were Wing Chun, there were tough times, joy of being a Wing Chun. And then, you were having a tough time being Ngang Chun and doing everything. And that was a tough time.
Yeah.
But then the joy of, being a hip C, and that was, being a hip C, Ngang Chun, and that was tough too.
Right.
And now at the end, you're just completely joyous again.
Right.
Right. And the same thing because with school, you got into the program, you didn't even know, right? That was joy. and now you walk through school, and there's probably ups and downs of school.
Yeah.
And now that you graduate, which is probably a very happy moment,
Yeah.
and then bam, back down. It's very interesting that Tiongi itself is like teaching you resiliency,
Right.
because it's still giving you some joy too during this whole time.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like being in a relationship, you know,
Yeah.
ups and downs.
For sure.
Ups and downs. And then life is giving you this ups and downs. And, you know, Tiongi is a good reminder that there will be ups when there is down, and so will this.
Right.
So very cool. Very cool.
So we mentioned about the job market right now, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's very similar to what happened back in 2008 and 2009, and soon after, and within those years, after the housing market crashed, it seemed like a lot of people lost their jobs, and it was hard to find new jobs. I feel like that's happening again in some fields, in like CS especially.
Right.
I'll give you. I'll say something right now, which you might not like, as well as any other people out there who's going to school might not like. But so in my career, even when I was working part time at UW, I've interviewed probably between more than 70, say close to 100 people or more. I've had a lot of positions where it allowed me to interview people, even when I started working at my company.
Yeah.
I almost never look at people's education, what they studied, where they went to school.
Yeah.
It's good that you do, and and people should go to school. It makes you more of a well-rounded person.
He's not telling us to drop out.
Right? Drop out. But when I go through people's resumes, potential candidates, I always skip over the education part. I look for the experience, and then usually after. Well, by that time, I'm interviewing them already because they already passed the HR screening. So I'm already interviewing them. And usually by within the 10, 15 minutes into the interview, I kind of know if I'm going to hire them or not.
Yeah.
Because you can figure out if they're kind of BSing it or if they actually know their stuff.
Yeah.
And more so, I want to know what their personality is like.
Yeah.
Because I can teach them anything else. It's how they interact. It's how they interact with you.
Right.
It's more important for me, at least in my field. And then, like I said, anything else we can teach. But yeah.
And I think like anything, the more interviews you do, the more practice you do, the better you
should
get.
definitely do mock interviews too. Like, hit up a friend and say, hey, can I practice my interview skills with you? Can I practice some of these questions?
I think a lot, and thank you for telling me that. And a lot of it is also self-study too. I know that when you're going through school, you're working on certain concepts, and things go by fast because you have to work on a project for 2 weeks, but you're also learning things in between, and it can be very difficult because you want to work on this, but you have to learn this type of stuff, right? So a lot of it goes into self-study as well. Being able to, yes, you learn it today, but are you actually going to take time to actually look into it and practice it yourself? So I think for me, taking time out of my day to actually really lock in on working on certain concepts and actually doing it will probably make me better, and hopefully the job that I want, I'm able to be comfortable in talking about it. So
do you have like a general advice for students in your around your age right now who maybe just graduate or about to graduate?
Have hope. No, seriously. Just keep working. Keep applying for jobs. Just keep doing what you're doing. Yes, you can take the breaks. It'll be very important for your mental health because you'll see that you're not the only person that is going through this struggle. So once you take the break, realize that keep going. Now you got to start back from square one. Work on applying. Work on studying. All that stuff so that you can be better. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So my other advice is, if you're a student, try to find a part-time job in that field that you're going for.
For sure.
Even if it's even just get yourself in the door. If not, even if it's not directly something that you want to do, just get in the door. Even if it's let's say you want to do something in lab work. Even if you're get a part-time job cleaning lab equipment or something, just get it
makes
in there.
Things
get
much easier. Yeah.
And I mentioned the same thing too. Even before you Huingcheng, DCFC definitely should have asked the Huingcheng. Right? DCFC, if any HFC asks you for help, getting
Yeah.
into something, you would
Yeah.
bend over and help them, right? So
Yeah.
like
I think that was
to help
the
them
reason
too.
why I became Hipsy. That's like one of the main reasons is
Yeah, to help them out, right?
like help them
So-
with do something that I wasn't doing, So being able for me to pass on knowledge, and knowing that they're gonna go through that struggle of finding jobs in the future, and I want to be the person to tell them, hey, it's okay, just keep pushing through, keep working.
Yeah.
Well,
It's persistence.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here for sure, and
Thank you for having me.
sharing something very difficult to share.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, and this is so difficult at any age, even for
Yeah.
me, who
Yeah.
I think I'm relatively confident who I am.
Mm.
But to share the difficulties that you're going through in
Right.
front of people,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you doing that. For me, I can't imagine it's cathartic. Like it's more like it's helpful to
Right.
say it out loud. So I'm hoping that it did provide some help for you to be
Yeah.
able to share that with us. But it definitely helped us to understand the current situation that probably a decent amount of Wing Chun your age are going through.
Right.
Right.
And I know we
So-
definitely have had Hunjungs who graduate and then it took them months, if not almost a year or more, to
Yeah.
get a job, to get in something that they actually want to do.
Actually, I have one more thing. So one of the things that I want to push out is, don't compare yourself to others. I
Yeah.
think that's the most important thing.
You mentioned that, yeah.
And I did mention that. Obviously you're gonna see a lot of achievements from other people, and you want to be in that position too, where you got that position, but you can't I don't know how to say it, but
Yep.
just
And I'll say this: there's a song that I share with the Hipsy, and I share with young Michael too, and he enjoyed it. And one of the part of the song was the race is long, and in the end, it's only with yourself.
right.
Right. The race
That's a
is
good
long.
one.
Your life is very long. In the end,
Yeah.
it's really just with yourself, and it should be throughout your whole life. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you, Joe Michael.
No,
we really
I
appreciate
I
it.
appreciate you guys, for real. You guys are like my mentors.
Oh, horrible mentors.
I don't know what we do. I don't say anything.